Good morning, All Saints. It's Monday morning, February 7th. We had glorious in-person worship yesterday, 3 services at 8, 9, and 10:30. It was wonderful to be in the space with so many people. We know that many of you joined us online, either because you could not be with us or are not yet comfortable being with us. And we will continue to live stream the 9 and 10:30 services for now. The 10:30 service all way, the 9 o'clock, we are really hoping that once, particularly the youngest children, are able to be vaccinated and families feel more secure and more comfortable about it, that we will be able to have a church full of children once again for this revitalized celebration of Eucharist that is geared towards our younger members. It was a joy-filled day, capped with a confirmation class last night of adults seeking confirmation, seeking to make an adult affirmation of their baptismal promises. It is always good for me to be taken back to the basics of our faith and of the Episcopal tradition when I teach confirmation class. So I'm looking forward to the next several weeks until confirmation happens in May. This morning, there is not a commemoration on the calendar, but in the readings for this morning, I was particularly taken with the reading from the epistles from the letter to the Hebrews, beginning in the 13th chapter. The first 3 verses say, "Let mutual love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing that some have entertained angels without knowing it. Remember those who are in prison as though you were in prison with them, those who are being tortured as though you yourselves were being tortured." I don't know if the understanding of empathy was a thing back in New Testament times. It is certainly over the past several years become a lot has been written and said about empathy, which in its if you break it down means feeling in as opposed to sympathy, which is feeling with. So you're with someone in whatever it is they're feeling. Empathy means that you can actually feel that feeling. You can weep with those who weep and mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice, as to paraphrase Romans. But this idea that for those in prison, we should feel as if we are in prison, or those who are being tortured, we should feel as if we are being tortured. And it brought to mind a lot that has been said and written over the past several weeks about the Winter Olympics that are currently going on in China, which is a wonderful country. I've never been there, but my parents lived there. And the Chinese people, we're surrounded by the Chinese people who came here under varying circumstances in the past century and a half or so. But the human rights abuses of the Uyghur population in particular, which is well documented, is a problem, and it certainly has dampened my ability to watch and enjoy the Winter Olympics. And I guess that comes back to empathy, for feeling that, as Fred Buechner writes, there can really be no peace and joy for me until there is peace and joy for you as well. And that includes our neighbors around the world who are suffering. And it isn't just in China, it is in all kinds of countries where rights are suppressed, where minority voices are not able to be heard. And so I think that it is important that we have empathy with those, not just in our own circle of friends, but around the world, and then do what we can to make things better. So I don't know what that is for the Uyghur population in China, other than to continue to remember them, to speak out. When the head of the Olympic Committee said that the Olympics should not be politicized, I don't believe that human rights are a political issue. They're a human rights issue. And so speaking out, speaking up, pressuring officials to do what they can in their official capacity to change things for the Uyghurs in China is one of the many, many things that we can do. And we can pray as we pray in for conflict in all kinds of areas. I do believe that the prayers of the faithful are heard and that they make a difference. So we pray as well. So this week, in my own little patch of God's vineyard, I am going to be thinking a lot about empathy and being being in something with someone else. And um, there's precious little of that going around these days. So I think that if we can all show a little bit more empathy for our neighbors and believe the good in them as opposed to the worst, I think our world would be a very different place. Sounds simple, I know. Maybe I'm a little naive this morning, but that's where I am. This week, as usual, we have Compline tonight at 7:30, evening prayer on Wednesday at 6:30. I'll be back Thursday morning. We fully anticipate continuing with 3 in-person services indefinitely. We do have a baptism next week at 10:30, which will be a opportunity for us to celebrate together, welcoming the newest member into the household of faith. Until I see you again, my prayers and blessings are with you and all those you love and pray for.